is up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of The Girl Who Talks Sports, the podcast where we talk sports and other girly things. I'm Sam Cardona, and thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening today. I'm super excited about today's episode. We had Chris Guzzo, also known as the Entertainah Talkin Sports. I have to say it in a New York accent because that's the way he spells it, so it's the Entertainah Talkin Sports. So we had him on this week because of the Giants' win over Seattle, which I'm so stoked about. I was so excited to do this interview with him. And I think it was really, really fun, really great. We also talked about the Jets and the Raiders game, and we talked about the Eagles and the Packers game, their quarterback situation, their coaching situation, things going on in the NFC East. It's really, really, really fun. Before we get into today's episode, I have some really fun news. So I was reached out to by the Sport Universe, which is a podcast network and like a sports media network, and they have added me to their podcasts. So I'm super excited about them. Make sure that you follow them at the.sport.universe. I'll put the link in my description and in the podcast information, like underneath the episode, so you guys can check them out. I will also be putting out these things called POVs, which are basically 60-second clips on Mondays and Fridays going over the Jets, the Giants, and the Bills, all three New York sports, or I should say New York football teams. So I'll review them on Mondays, I'll preview them on Fridays, so make sure that you give them a follow to see me on their page, and I'm really excited to have done this together with them. So make sure that you follow them. And also, obviously, shameless plugs, man. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you get your podcasts from. Please make sure that you subscribe and leave a review or rate or whatever it is that you want to do. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, turn on notifications on all the videos. I put out extra content now, so make sure that you check those out. And give this video a thumbs up, please. Thank you. So before we get into, also, don't forget to follow us on social. TGWTS Podcast on both Twitter and on Instagram. And Twitter is a fun place. I've gotten into the habit of, like, tweeting during the Giants games and kind of like freaking out all the time. So make sure that you follow me on there. I also post updates and all that good stuff. And on Instagram, I really like putting out stories and stuff like that, talking about how I'm feeling in between podcast episodes. I know I'm ranting a lot today in the intro of this, but it is what it is. So make sure that you follow, subscribe, all that good stuff on every single podcast platform, YouTube, social media, all that good stuff. And without further ado, I'm going to jump into this episode because I'm rambling. So before we get into our interview with the Entertainah, I just wanted to go over quickly, since we did do this interview before the Steelers game on Monday. So I just wanted to quickly talk about the Steelers for a second, because the Washington football team has given them their very first loss. The Steelers are no longer undefeated. There's no longer any undefeated teams in the league. So the Steelers are officially 11-1. Of course, the one team that I didn't want to get a win this week got a win, and they beat the Steelers, which, just my luck. We can't bask in our first place glory and our win over the Seattle Seahawks as a Giants fan. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. But the Steelers are no longer undefeated, I should say. They are defeated. This game was like I think what we've seen the decline of the Steelers recently. They've kind of been like weirdly going on their way down, making it out with these wins, but almost like they didn't deserve those wins. And last week against the Ravens was just like an atrocious, really, really bad game for them. And in this game, it was kind of similar. Lots of drop balls, not really running the ball that well. I didn't see the same Ben Roethlisberger that we were seeing kind of in the beginning of the season. The defense was doing pretty well. TJ Watt was doing pretty well. There were some penalties that weren't great. But the Steelers, to be quite honest with you, lost this game. The Washington football team won this game. And Alex Smith is out here just doing his thing. he also got like cleated into his ankle and he was gushing blood. And he like basically was like, wow, that's a good gush. And I was like, Alex, are you okay? Like, what's going on? It was a very weird thing. But obviously there was that last interception of the game that basically closed it out for the Steelers. And Washington's defense really, really rocks. That's all I got to say about that. So that was the one game that I really wanted to talk about that I didn't get to talk about with Chris on this interview. But without further ado, let's get into this interview with Chris Guzzo, the Entertainah Talkin Sports, to talk about our beautiful Giants win this week and the NFC East and the Jets. All right, everyone, we are joined today by a very special guest, Chris Guzzo, also known as the Entertainah Talkin Sports. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you on.
Of course. I mean, I always try to work with anybody that's in the Giants community. You reached out to me, and I could talk Giants for 24 hours. So I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, talking about Giants, whatever else you may want to talk about. And yeah, let's rock and roll.
Cool. So before we get started, you can let everyone know where they can find you. I know you have YouTube and everything like that, so let the people know.
Yeah, like you just said, you can find me on the Entertainah Talkin Sports. Been doing this for a little over 2 years. Got almost 32,000 subs now. Crazy how much it's grown over the last year or so. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm active there. I tweet a lot every day. Having a lot of fun the last couple of months now that I've finally adopted Twitter. So you can follow me at DA Entertainah 85. Don't know why I wrote that when I did, but it is what it is. I created the Twitter account about 3 years ago and just finally started using the app, and it's a lot of fun.
I love Twitter.
Yeah,
it's a really fun place, especially as you live tweet the games. It gets really fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a lot to talk about because the Giants came out on top over the Seattle Seahawks, which is an incredible win for us. I think we won 4 in a row. Let's just start. How are you feeling?
Like a champion. No, not like a champion. Maybe I'm getting a little carried away. But, I mean, listen, we had not won 3 in a row since 2016 going into this game. And a lot of negative Giants fans, or maybe you call themselves realistic Giants fans, going into this game, we're saying, who have you beaten? You beat Washington, you beat the Eagles, you beat a depleted Cincinnati roster with Joe Burrow out. And going into this game, a lot of us, logically, for logical reasons, thought we were going to lose. I mean, Daniel Jones is out. You're traveling to Seattle. You're versus an 8-3 football team. Russell Wilson, the whole bit, the great wide receiving core. And, going into this game, the defense looked great, but we hadn't gotten a test like this. And then you're going up against maybe the best offense in football. They were averaging like 30 points a game coming in. And, to all the naysayers now, I mean, you got nothing to say. I mean, this team ran the ball at will in the second half. The defense was magnificent. It's a great effort. And I think now the Giants have put the league on notice. This is not a joke of a football team anymore. We could compete. We may not win every week, but we could compete. We could go up against what the best the NFC has to offer, and we're gonna give you 60 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the biggest story to come out of like this week was the fact that Danny Jones isn't playing. Colt McCoy came in. Were you expecting like this to go a little bit more on the downside here? Because I was not expecting a lot from Colt McCoy this week. I thought that he was going to, do as much as he could, but I think that he did a fairly good job. What do you think?
Listen, it's what surprised me the most was how effectively, and we've been running the ball great. We had over 100 yards, 6 straight games for the first time since 2014 coming in. And that's been our offensive philosophy. It's running the football as much as we can behind this emerging offensive line. And that's what stood out to me the most in this game. I mean, Andrew Thomas had his best grade since he's been in the pros. He had the highest grade of any rookie left tackle in football for an individual game this week, over 87 on PFF. He was phenomenal. And that's what stood out to me. McCoy did probably what I expected. He definitely had some big third down conversions on that last drive, which helped chew up the clock and gave us a better, set them up for worse field position there for that last drive and helped out the defense. McCoy did what he had to do. He managed the football game. He threw for over 100 yards, only turned it over once. It's what I wanted. I didn't expect him to go out there and win us the game. Just don't lose it for us. And that's kind of what he did. But what impressed me the most in this game was the running game. We ran for over 190 yards. Wayne Gallman ran for $135. Seattle knew exactly what we were going to do. They had the third best defense in football against the run coming in, and they couldn't stop us anyway. That's what was the most impressive and exciting thing for me in this football game was They knew what we were going to do. It was a strength of theirs stopping what we're best at, and they still couldn't stop it.
Yeah, and I mean, Wayne Gallman was out here averaging, I think, a little over 8 yards a carry, which is amazing because that's basically almost a first down every time he has the ball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fantastic. When Saquon comes back, what do you think this run game is going to be like? You know, are they going to like differentiate them? Are they going to stick with Saquon? Are they going to stick with Gallman? Like, what do you think is going to go down with this run game when we get our star running back?
Yeah. The question is he going to be a full Saquon next year? I think he's going to be back. But, obviously it was a very serious injury. It wasn't just a normal ACL tear. It was so bad that he actually had to wait a month before he even got the surgery because they had to wait for everything, I guess, to heal up to a certain extent before they were able to operate. And we'll see. We'll see if he's 100%. But, yeah, and we'll see if we keep Gallman. We better. Gallman's playing great this year, but he is a free agent. Yeah. And if we bring Gallman back or if we don't and we draft a running back, I do think it'll be more of a committee approach than we expected going into this season with Barkley. We said Barkley's going to be the bell cow. He's going to get 20 carries a game. He's going to get you 6-7 catches. I don't think that'll be the case next year. I think they're still going to try to get the most out of Saquon Barkley. He's still a tremendous talent. But with him coming off the injury and the way that this team has operated, with a committee approach, even though Gallman's been the guy that's gotten the bulk of the carries, I think that's the approach the Giants are going to take. You look at where Joe Judge came from. New England's infamous for that. Every week they come with a committee approach at the running back position, and every week they come with a different running back. And Barkley will still be our best player in offense next year if he's 100% recovered. But I do think, they're going to give the other running backs some touches next year, and I think it's the approach they should take. The way Gallman's running, it's kind of what Barkley isn't so great at. Those hard, put your head down type yards. And Barkley's more of a guy that tries to hit the big explosive play, and I think it's a really nice compliment.
Yeah, and I think that also, I mean, this is a little bit old news now, but the Mark Colombo firing, I think our O-line has just gotten immensely better. Like, the fact that they're, like, opening up and getting Gallman, able to run up the middle, I think that that's a really, really big improvement. And then once Saquon ends up coming back, I mean, I think he'll be able to do that. I think that he'll be able to take off and have those amazing Saquon runs that we all know and love.
The offensive line, it's the first 3 weeks we looked like the worst offensive line in football. Like I think we surrendered like 13 sacks or so, 14 sacks, whatever it was in the first 4 weeks. And since then we surrendered 2 sacks this week, no sacks the week before. Andrew Thomas didn't let up a pressure, but it's really been the run push. Like Barkley was getting it 4 yards in the backfield. I mean, the first 2 weeks of the year before he got hurt. The offensive line is by far the focal point of this offense, and it's what Dave Gettleman promised when he took the job, and it's gotten so much better this year. And that's where football games are won and lost. I know a lot of people like, all you got to do is look at this game. You had maybe the most talented quarterback in football with Russell Wilson, if not most top 3 or 4 in the league. We had Colt McCoy. We had a guy that's like this close away from flipping pizzas. And the Giants' offensive line and defensive line just outmuscled them. You win in the trenches. That's what this team's about. And that's how you beat teams like that have quarterbacks like Russell Wilson. You have to be able to win in the trenches. And that's what this team is slowly becoming.
Yeah. Let's talk about this defense because I was so proud of this defense. I think we did immaculate, and then we just got Nico Lalos, and he has been doing some spectacular things on this defense for the past 2 games that we've had him. I think that he's made a tremendous effort in these games and basically changing like the whole dynamic of the game, especially when he recovered that fumble. Like with, Blake Martinez, we don't know what's going on with him in terms of his injury that he was out of the game yesterday. What do you think Nico Lalos is going to bring to this defense?
Listen, this coaching staff, whether it's defense, whether it's offense, they're getting the most out of the players that are on the roster. And it's very reminiscent of New England, where Joe Judge came from. And Nico Lalos is no different. Like, Nico Lalos comes in, he recovers a fumble. He had the interception the week before. He's already created 2 turnovers since he's been in lineup in 2 games. Undrafted free agent. And, I think it's more on the coaching. Like, the coaching staff, every week they come with a different game plan, and every week they're maximizing the talent that they have on this roster. Like, you look at Leonard Williams, and Leonard Williams fits this scheme very well. Leonard Williams never played like this throughout his entire career, and he's always been a guy with immense talent, but maybe he needed that coaching staff to get the most out of it. I think it's the same thing with Lalos. I think it's the same thing with all these rookies. You look at guys like Cam Brown yesterday, Carter Coughlin, Darnay Holmes. They all were valuable contributors in that game. You're talking about 6th, 7th round undrafted free agents, rookies. The way that they're contributing on this team is just ridiculous. Shane Lemieux, the offensive lineman, 5th round pick. This coaching staff is just getting the most out of every single player on this roster, and it speaks volumes.
Yeah, I mean, and even Mr. Irrelevant, Trey Crowder.
Hey, Crowder, yeah.
Just amazing. And I was so excited to watch this defense because I really think that we are one of these top defenses in the league. And I feel like that's crazy to say.
It's not.
But we really are. And the fact that we were able to hold the Seahawks and Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, James Bradberry on DK Metcalf. I mean, yeah, he had a couple great catches, and DK is a huge human being, but I think Bradberry did a great job covering DK.
That's every week with Bradberry. He's a given. Like he's become a lockdown, and he was the best free agent signing that we had, and we had a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
Logan Ryan's been fantastic. Blake Martinez's been fantastic. Even Kyler Fackrell's been really good for us. Our entire offseason was great. But James Bradberry, every week, he has locked down the opposing top number one. I think he's going to do the same thing with DeAndre Hopkins this week against the Cardinals. He's been unbelievable. A lot of Giants fans didn't like the signing when we made it. They said, oh, another Carolina Panther, because obviously, Gettleman has ties to Carolina. He's bringing a lot of guys from there.
Right.
He's working out pretty well. Another former Carolina Panther, Graham Gano, has been playing pretty well as well. Another underrated free agent signing by the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, Graham Gano, I've been just like every week, I'm like, I have no worries about kicking. I mean, every once in a while, they kind of lean just a little.
Well, he missed an extra point this week, but
he did, but not bad.
Yeah, he's been a godsend for this football team. A kicker is the most underrated position on a football team because it's kind of like the offensive line. Like when you don't say an offensive lineman's name, that means they did a great job, but they don't get the credit. They only get the blame. It's the same thing with a kicker. Like the only time you're really going to talk about a kicker is when he's costing you games, not when he's winning you games. But Graham Gano might be the most important player in this offense. How consistent he's been in the kicking game. It's been ridiculous. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And also, just mentioning our offensive line again, I've been seeing Andrew Thomas do so much better now that, Colombo is gone. And in the beginning of this season, I was like, we spent our 4th pick overall in this guy. I don't see him doing anything. And the whole thing was that he was one of the best left tackles in the game. And I saw nothing from him. And all of a sudden, here he comes it's great. I'm so ecstatic at the fact that watching that game, I was like, we're holding the Seahawks. Russell Wilson is an MVP candidate. I mean, he's always an MVP candidate, but yeah, I mean, the offensive line really is something amazing. And now that they have, some new coaching with them, they're doing fantastic. And what I wanted to ask you also was, do you think that the Giants as a whole outplayed the Seahawks, or do you think the Seahawks were just having a bad day?
No, I think we outplayed them. And the media is coming out. You knew it. The media is coming out saying Seattle blew the game and blah, 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 blah. No, we're better in the trenches. That's where football games are won. We dominated them. Our offensive line dominated their defensive line, and our defensive line dominated their offensive line. That's what won us the game. They didn't lose it. We took it from them. We out-physicaled them, and that's what football's about. We were the stronger team. We were the tougher team. We took it to them. We set the pace of play in that second half. We made great second half adjustments, and they couldn't stop our run game. I don't care who's playing quarterback for your team. If you can't stop the run, we grind out the game the way that we did. That's what won it for us. Our defense presented problems for Russell Wilson. He didn't know where the blitz was coming from. We just confused them. I don't think they took us lightly. The Giants won 3 straight coming in. They needed that game. You look at the NFC West right now. They're competing to try to get the number 1 seed, to win that division, to get a high seed in the playoffs. They've got, the Rams nipping at their heels. The Arizona Cardinals weren't far off coming in. Of course, they lost this week, but they needed this game. They couldn't take us lightly. They couldn't afford to. We just outplayed them.
Yeah, and with the Cardinals coming up next week, I kind of was expecting up until the last week of the season when we played Dallas, I was like, if we win this game and we kind of, maybe we don't do so well in the rest of the games, still think we can grab a seat in the playoffs. But now that we beat the Seahawks, I'm going into next week with some high expectations. And I think we could beat them.
I think we will beat them. Them. People have been asking me, going into the Seahawks game, what's the most winnable game on our schedule outside of the Cowboys game, of course. I said Arizona. I think Arizona's been a fake football team all year. I've said it all year. They've got a flashy quarterback with Kyler Murray. They got a great weapon with DeAndre Hopkins. Listen, they're 6-6. They're a missed Hail Mary away from being 5-7. And they had a ridiculous comeback against Seattle where they were down by 17 points in the fourth quarter. They're this close to being 4-8. Arizona does not scare me. Their defense sucks. Their offensive line is trash. They've got a really good quarterback. They've got a great wide receiver. We've got a corner that has demonstrated he could shut down anybody. We just went up against a mobile quarterback in Russell Wilson that's better than Kyler Murray. Every time I watch Arizona play, Murray makes 2 or 3 mistakes. I think this defense will capitalize on it. If Daniel Jones is playing in that game, I'm confident we're going to beat them at home.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Daniel's going to play next week.
That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like.
Said he was going to come out and do that. And what kind of reminded me in this game was when, Russ threw it down the field and it was that cluster of people all jumping up in the air. He's throwing to DK. It reminded me of that Cardinals Hail Mary. And I was like, if Bradbury is on DeAndre and the same thing happens again, I don't see them making that catch twice in one season.
DeAndre's shutting him down. Yeah, Bradbury's shutting DeAndre down. He's gonna lock up. He might get his 70 or 80 yards like Metcalf did, but I don't see him going off. And it goes back to the coaching. I think the Giants will come out with a good scheme. I think they'll keep Kyler Murray in the pocket. I don't think he's gonna kill us with his legs. And if we play fundamentally sound football, we're gonna beat them. I think we have the better coach, and I think we have the better defense. I think we have the better offensive line. I think we'll beat them in the trenches just like we did Seattle. And I think Seattle has a better football team than Arizona does. And we're at home. And we got our quarterback back. We're not starting McCoy. Why shouldn't we beat Arizona? I'm sick of moral victories. I was a guy that emphasized that going into the year. I said, listen, it's going to be a tough year. We've got to take it in stride. We're going to have moral victories because that's what rebuilding teams have. Like, I think a lot of people don't recognize when you're rebuilding, it comes with losses. But as long as you're progressing and getting better, you take the good with the bad. And this team has progressed over the course of the year. But now I think this team has grown up to the point where, yeah, I go into games expecting to win. I don't want to just compete. When I see a team we could beat, I want to beat them. I look at Cleveland. Cleveland's going to be a challenge, but it's 1 week at a time. We got Arizona on deck right now. And with Daniel Jones, the way this team's playing right now, there's no reason why we shouldn't win.
Yeah, I mean, for the rest of the schedule, are the Browns seem like the only people that we might have
I think we could beat the Browns too. I do. But they're going to be tough. They got a great offensive line. They got a great run game, and we'll see how our defense matches up against them. And Mayfield, of course, had a great game this past week, but he's hit or miss. Baltimore, obviously a lot of talent there, but they've been kind of struck with the COVID, and they've been a letdown this year. I think they're 6-5 right now, or whatever it is, 6-5. They're playing tomorrow, I think on Tuesday against Dallas. So we'll see how they do there. But nobody on the schedule. Like, if you would ask me 4 or 5 weeks ago, I would have said, yeah, it's going to be tough for us to win any of those games. I'm not telling you we're going to win all of them, but nobody scares me right now on our schedule.
Yeah, no, it really was an amazing, amazing end to that game. And I'm so excited for Arizona next week because I 100% agree with you. I think that this is basically, like a copy paste of Seattle with Kyler being a running quarterback, but being smaller and being less experienced. And the fact that DK and DeAndre Hopkins are very similar to one another and having Bradbury on them. Yeah, why not? Why not take down 3 birds?
3 birds. We're clipping wings.
Yeah. We take down the Eagles, which was, I have not felt that kind of happiness in so long when we beat the Eagles last week.
Do you know, like, I used to dread playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, I would do now, I can't wait to play them again.
I know. And I can't wait. I think personally, we would have won that Thursday night game against them.
We should have.
Yeah.
We should have. And the other thing I'm going to say is the challenges that this team had coming into the season. You have a new coach. You have 2 new schemes on both sides of the ball. That takes time to learn, right? A new D coordinator, a new O coordinator. So, and they had no preseason. They had no off season. So the first 3 or 4 games almost acted as if a training camp or a preseason. Like, they had to get accustomed to these schemes. Had we had a normal off season, you would have seen a much more advanced team. This team probably 8 wins right now. 8-4 probably, because I look at that Bears game week 2. If we had a normal offseason to prepare, learn the schemes and everything else, I think we win that game. I look at the Dallas game. I think we win that game. And we should have won the game anyway. They took away 2 touchdowns. I look at that first Eagles game. We're up 11 points. We find a way to close out that game. This team is much better than their record says right now.
I agree. And also the Tampa Bay game where that should have there was no penalty on that last play. It should have been like there was. It just drives me crazy because I wanted to be Tom Brady so bad.
But you know what I say? Whether we make the playoffs at 7-9 or 10-6, it don't matter because when you get there, everybody's 0-0. So it's a same record as everybody else. So we'll take it 1 week at a time. But if we get there, if we get in the tournament, I don't care what we did in the regular season. We're there. And we should know better than anybody else as Giants fans. We won a Super Bowl at 9-7 in 2012. Yes. So, I mean, I'm not saying we're going to win the Super Bowl. I don't want to get people's, hopes up, but we could compete. I really believe that. I think we could compete with anybody in the NFC.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on Joe Judge? Personally, I'm a big fan.
I don't talk politics, but I actually wrote him in for president this year. That's how much I love Joe Judge. Like, I love Joe Judge. I'm all about Joe Judge. I've been all about Joe Judge. And the way he's dealt with the media this offseason has been ridiculous. Very reminiscent of Eli Manning, who's my favorite player ever. The way that Eli always he deflected everything off of him, the way he dealt with the media. It's the same thing with Joe Judge. They took every shot they could at this guy. Oh, he's a Belichick guy. It's not going to work. Oh, he's too much of a disciplinarian. The players aren't going to want to play for him. Oh, he's using tennis balls and coverage skills. That's very much like a high school coach. Oh, this, that, the other thing. Oh, he fired Mark Colombo. He's got no control of his coaching staff. Joe Judge has dealt with it perfectly. And I'm absolutely in love with this coach, and he's building something. You could see it. You see the players love to play with this guy. You see the bet he had with Evan Ingram with the Ole Miss shirt. You just see that the players love playing for this guy. And he was perfect for this team. He really was. Like in 2018, it may not have worked because you would have had a young coach that was coming in with a disciplinarian attitude, and you had a lot of veterans, guys that may not have bought in, guys like Janoris Jenkins, guys like Odell Beckham. The Giants cleaned up the culture. They brought in young players that are hungry, that want to improve, that want to get better, that want to be a part of this. And Joe Judge, man, he's saving the franchise. And I think he's going to be here for a long time. And I think people are going to look back at this game against Seattle, and they're going to say, that's when it really started to really turn, where I really started to truly believe in the growth of this football team. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, if we were talking about this in the beginning of the season, I was definitely a little, on the edge about everything going on because, we weren't doing as well and I wasn't seeing those wins. But as we just started progressing, even the games that we were losing, I mean, we were losing by 3 points, 1 point. Like, it was so close every single time. And I think that Joe, when he did that, the press conference, when he basically like yelled at a reporter because like his phone was going off or something was going off, and he was like, "Can you turn that off?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And like, I love it. I love it so much. And I mean, we're not a fan of the Patriots, but I respect Bill Belichick. I think he's probably one of the greatest coaches ever.
The greatest. But don't forget, he was a Giant.
Yes, of course. And the thing is too, like everybody's like, oh, the disciples of Belichick, Matt Patricia got fired and this and that. But like Brian Flores is thriving in Miami right now.
8-4.
I don't see why, and the thing is too, everybody was like, oh, he's just a special teams coach, well, like, what is he going to do? But
Harbaugh was a special teams coach. He did great with Baltimore.
Yeah, no, I think that it's going really well. But something I do want to mention really quick is our special teams though. Yeah. That reminded me.
A little shaky.
Yeah. So like, I mean, how do we fix that? How do we fix this shaky special teams that even in the Bengals game last week?
They were horrible last week.
103-yard touchdown on a punt return.
Well, not just that, the fake punt that the Bengals had on the 20, we fell asleep there. And then you had the punt return at the end of the game before we were able to close it out, where they had like a 30-yard return. We were really bad on special teams last week. The only guy that continues to be a constant was Gano. Mm-hmm. I still think it's a bit of a one-off this week. Yeah, the block punt can happen. But I don't worry too much about that. I believe strongly in our special teams coach, Thomas McGahee. That was actually one of the strengths of this team last year. As bad as the team was, we were fantastic on special teams. We brought in Joe Judge, who's a special teams mastermind. I'm not too worried about it. I think the Giants will fix that. But yeah, you're right. The last couple of weeks, it's been a little, but that's what's encouraging. We're still winning. We're not putting forth A+ efforts. We're not. And we're still winning games, and that's the mark of a team that's becoming a good football team. I'm not saying we're good yet. We got to earn that. But we're becoming that. And that's what good football teams do. Like against the Bengals, I would say overall, because of how poor our special teams played, it was probably like a C- effort. But we won the football game. And that's what teams do. They overcome adversity. Like the Bengals game, let's look at that. If I would have told you special teams was going to play that bad going in, Daniel Jones is going to get hurt, Evan Ingram's going to fumble the ball on the 15-yard line, all those things are going to happen. We play the Bengals week 3. I don't care if Joe Burrow's not playing, we lose the game. But this team found ways to win, and that's what good teams do. And it's the same thing this week. Yeah, I would say we probably made like a B effort, but we weren't perfect. Like the interception by McCoy off of Ingram's hands, you had the poor special teams play, but we overcame it. We didn't have great field position in terms of defense throughout this whole game, but the defense held strong. And when we made mistakes, when they had the interception and you started to say, oh no, Oh, no. Seattle's up 3-0 with the ball. They just had a momentum shifting play. They're going to go down. They're going to score. The defense held strong. They got to stop, and they erased it. So this team's overcoming things, and that's what good football teams do.
What are your thoughts on Evan Ingram?
He's hot and cold for me. You know, he's like an enigma. I want to root for the guy. Seems like a great guy. Seems like a great teammate. And, you know, like against the Bengals, he had his best game of the year, but he still had that one really costly mistake. Although, if you're being fair, it was a great play by I forgot who did it, but the guy who punched out, it was a really good play. But it just seems like every game he has one mistake that leads to a turnover and nearly costs us the game, or sometimes costs us the game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, you go back to that, the ball off his hands, and then it was intercepted. He drops the ball down the sideline, which would have closed out the game. So he's a really talented player. He gets open. The one thing I'll say, at least he hasn't gotten hurt this year. He got hurt. He missed 13 games in his first 3 years as a pro. Knock on wood, so far he's remained healthy. And he's still probably our best weapon in the passing game because of the mismatch that he is for opposing defenses, the way he's able to get open. But the guy, it just seems like the guy always finds ways to make mistakes. I'm not bought into him long-term, giving him a contract extension. I think he'll be here next year, obviously, because we extended him on the rookie deal. I want to like the guy, but you don't want your tight end costing you football games, and he's done that a lot this year.
Yeah, and there was even that Colt McCoy threw him a pass, which I think was a pretty direct pass. I mean, I don't know, you know, with Colt McCoy and him starting, like, I don't know if how he was feeling and everything, but that there was a pass to Ingram that was very similar to the one in the Eagles game, not as big and costly.
Oh, it hit both. Now I got to go back and watch the game film because a lot of people said that the defender got his hands in there. I don't know, but you're right. It looked like it hit both his hands. And the thing that I saw when I watched it was Ingram should have came towards the ball. But regardless, I'm going to give Ingram credit after that. He blocked well. He had a huge third down conversion there on that last drive where he was able to pick up 9 yards and advance the drive and it chewed up more clock. So he's hit or miss. You know, he'll make miraculous catches and then he'll make boneheaded plays. And that's my thoughts on Evan Ingram. We need him to win, though, because we don't have a lot of weapons on this team, and he's one of them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Before we move on, is there anything else from this game that stood out to you, something that you want to discuss?
I mean, I could talk about the game all day. So if you ask me that, we'll be here for 5 hours. Just the coaching staff as a whole, the game planning, though, that to me was we outcoached them. And they knew exactly what we were going to do, and they couldn't stop them anyway. In my post-game video, I said it's kind of like a pitcher telling the hitter, I'm giving you a fastball. I'm putting it right over the middle. I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do, and you're not going to be able to hit it anyway. And that's what happened. Seattle knew exactly what we were going to do. They stacked the box all game, and our offensive line still pushed them off the ball, and we still gained yards on the ground. So that's what I took from it, man. We're starting to become a bunch of bullies, and I love it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm super stoked about this. And at the end of that game, I didn't even believe that we had won. I was just standing in front of my TV like, is there another quarter to go? Where are we at?
I live stream the game. I do the play-by-play for every game. And one of the guys in my stream said, I feel like this is our Super Bowl. I said, this ain't our Super Bowl. We're just getting started. Don't have that mentality. We're starting to turn the corner. We're gonna have more wins like this. Let's get to the playoffs. Let's do some damage. But yeah, no, you're right. This was, in my opinion, this was our biggest win since our last Super Bowl. I really believe that. You know, a lot of people say 2016 went to the play, but that was a team built on free agency. They were veterans. This team is a team that's starting to build a winning culture, and they're starting to learn how to win. And this was a signature win. This was a legit team, a top 5 team in the league on the road without your quarterback. You went in there and you found a way to win. And it gave me goosebumps watching that football game yesterday.
And one more thing before we move on from the Giants, I like to ask Giants fans this. How were you feeling when Daniel Jones was drafted?
Oh, you haven't seen my draft reaction video. It went viral. I was not happy.
Really?
I was not happy. No, I flipped out. But I think a lot of Giants fans flipped out if we're being honest with ourselves. I think 95% of Giants fans flipped out. I wanted Josh Allen, the pass rusher, who ended up with Jacksonville. I was in love with him throughout the whole pre-draft process. I actually didn't hate Daniel Jones. I liked Daniel Jones. I just wanted him more at like 17. I did a lot of research on him because I heard the connections. But I didn't love him. I liked him. I didn't view him as a guy with an immense ceiling. And to be honest, I still don't view him as a guy with an immense ceiling. When I say that, I'm talking Pat Mahomes. I'm talking the cream of the crop. But I still think you could win games with Daniel Jones. And I still think as he matures, he could become one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. I have no doubt in my mind. And as this offensive line matures and we get him some weapons, I think you'll start to see that show in the stat sheet. Even though the stats don't indicate it this year with Daniel Jones, I think he's a much better quarterback because last year, everyone just pointed to the 24 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. But when you look at the game, the guy who's costing, obviously the fumbles, the pocket awareness, the pre-snap reads, it wasn't there. He looked lost. He should have thrown at least 20 interceptions last year. There were a lot of balls that hit the defender's hands, hit the ground, and he also compiled his stats against bad teams. Like he threw 5 touchdowns against Washington. He threw 4 touchdowns against the Jets. The Bucs game. He compiled the stats against bad teams. This year, he's a much more advanced quarterback. You could see it in his pre-snap adjustments. You could see it in his pocket awareness, the way he manipulates the pocket. He's gotten much better in those areas, and that to me is much more important than the stat sheet. We're winning football games because of it. He's becoming a more responsible quarterback with the football. And I go back to the week before, the game he got hurt, the big throw to Evan Ingram before we ran it into the end zone from the 4-yard line of 4 straight plays. He changed the play at the line of scrimmage. Daniel Jones last year doesn't do that. He saw the weakness in the defense and he checked out of it, and then he went to Ingram on the deep play. He's definitely matured a lot as a quarterback. You
see him long term?
I don't want to commit to it yet, because I got to see more. Yeah. But I'm definitely trending that way. I'm definitely trending that way, and I definitely think I'm expecting a big year from Jones in 2021 because it's going to be his second year in the scheme, as long as Garrett stays, or maybe we hire from within if Garrett goes. But it's going to be his second year in this offense. The offensive line is going to be even better because they're going to be together for another year. Continuity is just going to make that offensive line better. I think we're going to add a weapon. We're going to have Barkley back. You'll have the Wayne train hopefully back. And I just think this offense will be that much better. So I'm expecting next year, I think, is when the statistics meet the progress that he's made this year. And I expect him to have a really strong statistical season. And I think he's going to have a good year. And I'm definitely leaning that I think he'll get that second contract with the New York Giants.
All right, let's stick within the NFC East here. So obviously the Eagles played the Packers yesterday and didn't have as good of a day as we did. We saw Carson Wentz finally get benched for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts comes in. It's 4th and 18. He chucks it down the field. They get a touchdown. Doug Peterson, he didn't commit to anything yet, but what are you seeing in terms of the quarterback situation in Philadelphia right now?
Philadelphia's a mess. I look at the Eagles right now. Their head coach doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Every time I watch an Eagle game, the play calling's horrible. I never understood the pick of Jalen Hurts. I think it screws with your quarterback's head. I think that's partially what's responsible for Carson Wentz's dramatic decrease, regression. I also think their offensive line is horrible, but there's no excuses, man. And Carson Wentz is a guy I have a lot of respect for. I thought last year he had a really good year for the Eagles. I think he's still a very talented quarterback, but I think there's some quarterbacks that they're not mentally tough, and we talk about players that are built to be successful in New York. That's what it takes. You got to be able to take that, adversity. And I didn't agree with the pick of Hurts. I think that's part of the reason why Wentz has struggled. I think mentally he's like, this team doesn't believe in me. And he's played horrible. But a lot of that goes to Peterson as well. I'm happy as a Giants fan. I'm thrilled because I look at the Eagles situation. They have negative $63 million in cap space next year. They've got a quarterback. They're probably going to fire their head coach, and nobody's going to want to take that job because they're going to say they got no cap space. They have aging veterans. They've got a horrible situation, kind of like the 2018 Giants where we were forced to take Pat Shurmur. I think it's going to be a similar situation with the Philadelphia Eagles next year. I think they're a mess. I think their general manager did a horrible job backloading the contracts. They have no cap space. And you can't cut Carson Wentz. His dead cap hit's like negative, is like $60 million next year. He's going to be on the Eagles for the next 3 years. So either he's going to get better or you're going to be paying your backup quarterback $35 million a year. It's a complete mess in Philadelphia. I love it.
I'm so here for it. And I even, one of my good friends is an Eagles fan. And after the Giants won, there was still like 2.5 minutes left in the Eagles game. And I tried FaceTiming her and she was just like, nope. I was just like, come on, answer the phone. I want to tell you that the Giants won. But yeah, so, I mean, in terms of the whole thing with drafting Jalen Hurts, what's interesting about this game is that they were playing the Green Bay Packers, who had a very similar situation in which they drafted Jordan Love.
Yeah.
So, and I think that there's the comparison of quarterbacks dealing with the same situation. You have Aaron Rodgers, who's literally in the MVP candidate race, and he's Aaron Rodgers, and who's literally was like, oh, you want to draft a quarterback? Watch this, and just started winning games right off the bat. I mean, they've struggled a bit this year, a little bit.
They're 9-3, I think. Yeah. He has not. he's been on another level.
Yeah, I mean, the Packers defense really is not good at all. Yeah. But I think that there's the comparison there where it's like, Carson Wentz struggling with the fact that Jalen Hurts is there, but then you see Aaron Rodgers and his season, And they haven't even thought about playing Jordan Love. Jordan Love is basically Aaron Rodgers when Brett Favre was playing. So I think that there's the comparison there.
That's a great point you bring up that I never really thought about, but you're right. It's almost like it was almost even though I hated the pick, because I'm actually a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, since I've been watching football, and a lot of people disagree with me on this. They go at me on this, and maybe it's a hot take. I say it all the time. I think Aaron Rodgers, in terms of just being purely gifted, is the greatest quarterback of all time. Like, I watched that guy play, and to me, his IQ meets his talent. Like, he's probably the smartest pre-snap quarterback, him or Peyton Manning, that I've ever seen. The way that he's able to manipulate the defense, get all those free plays, he's known for that, to get the defense to jump offside, and he gets the free play. He's just a brilliant quarterback, and his talent, the throws that this guy's able to make is just insane. I love watching Aaron Rodgers play. And he's ridiculous. And the way he's playing this year, in my opinion, he's the MVP. And a lot of people point to Pat Mahomes, and Pat Mahomes is fantastic the year that he's having. But what Rodgers has been able to do, like you look, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Mahomes, but you've got the greatest offensive mind in football with Andy Reid. You got Tyreek Hill. You got Travis Kelce. You've got more weapons than you know what to do with. Aaron Rodgers was without basically his only weapon in the passing game, Devontae Adams, for a period of time. He's got guys like Tanya, the tight end's got like 8. Like, what Rodgers has been able to do with this roster has been ridiculous. But it's a great point that you bring up, that them drafting Jordan Love actually made Aaron Rodgers improve. Like, it almost gave him a kick in the ass. Mm-hmm. And he was like, no, this is my team. You're not taking this team. And for Carson Wentz, it's almost like he folded up and went into a bowl and he couldn't handle it. So it's a great point you bring up.
Yeah, and that was like the first thought that when Jalen Hurts came into the game, I was like, oh, wow. And then I remembered, I was like, Jordan Love is on the Packers, and nobody's even mentioned Jordan Love, like not even a little bit. So I think that there's the difference in terms of, quarterback mentalities and the way that they think and stuff. But when Jalen Hurts came into the game and, they got this touchdown, and all of a sudden, that Philadelphia hope came back up again. Do you think that Jalen Hurts could be the answer for the Philadelphia offense, or do you think that it was just,
It's tough to say. I mean, I was never a big Jalen Hurts guy.
Yeah.
I did some research on him. I was never a big Jalen Hurts guy coming into this draft, especially for the Eagles. I never thought it made sense. Maybe. I mean, Travis Fulgham was playing really well for them before he got, I guess, his snaps reduced. I don't know how he did yesterday, but who knows? But at the end of the day, I look at the Eagles situation. I think it's going to be hard for any quarterback to succeed there right now, because they've drafted so bad the last 3 or 4 years. They have no cap space. I don't know how they're going to build a roster around these quarterbacks. And the offensive line has regressed. They have aging veterans there. I think the Eagles are in a lot of trouble, regardless of who's the quarterback over the next couple of years.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that it has to do with their coaching, and also the fact they don't have an offensive coordinator. Like, no one's in that position.
Doug Peterson, I say it all the time. I cannot believe that they built a statue of Doug Peterson. They won a Super Bowl. They got a statue of Doug Peterson and Nick Foles, a backup quarterback. Jeff Hostetler won us a Super Bowl. You see no statue of him. And I watched the Eagles game. Doug Peterson doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Like, I give a lot of the credit to that Super Bowl to the assistant coaches. Frank Reich, brilliant offensive mind. You see what he's doing with the Indianapolis Colts. Steve Filippo was a great coach on that staff as well. Since Peterson lost those guys, you've really seen the holes in his game, and he's not helping out his quarterback. He is not a good play caller. And I could go over so many individual circumstances when I watch the Eagles play. He's horrible. He's a horrible head coach. Awful. And I love it.
Yeah, I know. Well, the thing is, too, in the beginning of this season, I was like, the Eagles are probably going to win this division again. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know. I think that our biggest threat is the football team, in my opinion. Yeah,
the Washington football team. You're right. I mean, maybe that we'll see what Dallas does tomorrow, but Washington's building the right way, and I always liked Ron Rivera. I thought it was a good hire there. They've got a really good defensive line, good front seven. They still, and Alex Smith kind of fits that team, because they're similar to us in the sense that they want to rely on that defense. They want to build around that ground game. Gibson's been doing well for them, the rookie. And Alex Smith is a guy who doesn't turn the football over. So they are building something, and they are a bit of a threat to us in the division. I'd agree there.
Yeah, but the thing is, they are playing Pittsburgh tonight, which is
5:00. I'm streaming the game in like an hour.
Hopefully
they lose.
I hope so. Yeah. And also, my brother's a Steelers fan, so I gotta root for the Steelers. But the last game that I want to talk to you about is staking in New York sports. This Jets Raiders game, which was devastating, heartbreaking for all Jets fans. They have this last-minute Hail Mary. Derek Carr throws it down the field to Ruggs. They win. And the thing was, too, Greg Williams calls a blitz on a Hail Mary pass, which is one of the worst defensive calls probably in all of defensive call history. And now he's unemployed, doesn't have a job anymore. And Frank Bush, I think their linebacker coach, is coming in to be their defensive coordinator. Is there any hope for the Jets at all?
I say yes, actually.
Okay.
And I actually like what the Jets did this offseason, even though they're 0-12 and they're horrible. And I knew they were going to be horrible coming into the year, especially after they traded away Jamal Adams. They lost C.J. Mosley to the virus. He opted out. Mm-hmm. I actually like the Jets' future. I'm going to tell you why. Okay. They got a lot of draft capital from the Jamal Adams trade, right? I think they got multiple first-round picks. Kind of like what the Dolphins did last year when they traded away a lot of their Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Steelers. They got a lot of draft capital. They've got a lot of cap space, and they're going to have the first pick. They're going to get Trevor Lawrence, which is the quarterback that everyone's drooling over.
Right.
And I think head coaches and their offensive line is actually not that bad. Mekhi Becton's played good when given the opportunity. They made some pretty good signings, I thought, at that position. I think the Jets could actually be a decent team next year. If Lawrence is as good as people say, they definitely need to get some weapons in the passing game, and that defense needs to get a lot better. I still won't say they're going to be good next year, but I think if they get the right coach in there, that's the first thing. You can't win without the right coach. Adam Gase is horrible, but I do think it could be an attractive destination for some coaches for the simple reason Trevor Lawrence, a quarterback, should win in this league. So if I'm a Jet fan, I'm not quite giving up hope just yet. For this year, you guys are an embarrassment, one of the worst individual football teams in ever. But I do think that they have the structure in place. I like some of the things Joe Douglas, their GM, has done. He's starting to clean up, kind of what we did. We got rid of all the players that we didn't want to have. We started bringing in draft capital and rebuilding. And I think Jet fans need to realize where they are in the process. But if Trevor Lawrence turns out to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in football, that could turn around real fast. Like, you look at the Colts, the year that Peyton Manning went down, they won 2 games. They got the first pick. They got Andrew Luck. The next year, they made the playoffs with Luck at quarterback. So I'm not saying Jets are going to the playoffs, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're a 6 or 7 win team next year and starting to trend in the right direction.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, with firing Greg Williams, which is like, literally it happened yesterday. They fire him today. I found, before we started doing our interview, I found out that Gase is the one that fired him. Now, in my opinion, I'm like, listen,
I don't know if Gase still has a job. I don't know if Adam Gase still has a job. It's almost like the Jets are trying to lose because they see Trevor Lawrence and they're like, Gase is so bad, we have to keep him. He's going to keep losing games. Keep him up. Yeah. We don't want. That's almost the feeling that I get because he is so bad. And the guy I feel the worst for, because I like the Jets. I'm a Giant fan, but I watch the Jets. I like the Jets. They're like our little brother. And my sister's a huge Jets fan. I pull for them when they're not playing the Giants. And I feel so bad for Sam Darnold because Sam Darnold got screwed. Like, he got drafted by the Jets. The Jets did nothing to help him his first 2 years in the league. They gave him no weapons outside of Le'Veon Bell with an offensive line that couldn't block. And you saw how bad he was because of that. Like, he got completely screwed. He got a horrible situation. He got dealt a really bad hand. And I still think Darnold could be a good quarterback if you put him in the right situation next year. If he goes to the Steelers or the Saints or, a team with an aging quarterback and he steps in and takes the reins, or the Colts. We'll see how that plays out. But I feel so bad for Sam Darnold. The Jets really screwed that up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I've said it, I think, since Sam Darnold got drafted, he was a high draft pick and the Jets needed a quarterback. But I was like, oh, maybe this is the guy that can actually turn it around. But then Gase stepped in, and I think that he just messed the whole thing up. Like, I just don't think that he is the right coach for Sam Darnold. And I agree with you.
He's not the right coach for anybody. No. He's horrible.
It's him and his weird stance and his crazy eyes, and we don't need it anymore. Yeah. And the fact that, but the thing is that everybody's like, oh, I'm so happy that we're tanking this and that, like we're doing it on purpose. That game yesterday showed me that they're not trying to lose.
The players are never going to try to lose. They're playing for jobs. The coaches are never going to try to lose. They're playing for jobs. But maybe in the back of my mind, I'm like, the organization is trying to do everything they can to make sure they lose football games. The GM and the owner, because they see that prize with Trevor Lawrence. But listen, they're fighting. They're just really bad. Like, they're really bad. They're that bad.
And I mean, on the opposite side of this game, it was the Raiders. The Raiders being the only team that have given the Chiefs a loss, and they're losing to the Jets.
And they got blown out the week before. They lost by like 40 points the week before.
Like, what's going on there?
It was kind of similar last year. Like last year, I remember a lot of people were pretty high on the Raiders, and they actually got off to a good start. I don't remember what their record was, and then they just completely fell apart in the second half. It kind of feels like that this year. Like I was like bought into the Raiders at the start of the year. The first 4 or 5 weeks, I'm like, they got that old school mentality. They're kind of like what we are. They were running the football a lot. The defense looked improved. Gruden looked like he had that team going where they need to go, and they're kind of just falling apart. Very similar to last year.
Yeah, and like I know that like playing the Chiefs, that's a division game. You know, you're used to them, you know them, you're studying them. But I wasn't even expecting the Jets to put any points. Like the Dolphins held them to 0 points. How did the Raiders come out here and let them almost? Honestly, if there was any other defensive call than a blitz,
That's when the Jets should have won that game.
They would have won.
Yeah,
they're literally put another guy down there. And also, he was up, I forgot who it was, but Henry Ruggs and this undrafted rookie guy in the defense going up against Henry Ruggs, who ran a 4.27 40-yard in the combine.
Yeah.
He couldn't even touch him. He was running so fast. And I was like, if you put one more guy out there, it wouldn't have happened. The Jets would be 1-11 right now, which is not great, but a win
better than 0-12. Yeah. Even I know a lot of Jet fans are rooting for them to lose because they want Lawrence. Like they're like at this point just whatever. But nobody wants to end the season with no wins. Like you go down in the history books. You know, I think there's only 2 teams that have ever done that: the Lions and the Browns, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You don't want to go down as one of those teams. And I am never of the tank mentality because to me you got to start building a good culture. And you look at the worst teams; they're always picking at the top of the draft. And it never seems to work. They never seem to get out of it. Like the Lions routinely are at the top of the draft. The Jets, the Browns, they're starting to finally turn it around. But the Bengals, and I'm never of that mentality. I think you need to start to learn to win football games. And I'm glad that the Giants didn't give up. You know, we started 1-7, and we're finally starting to turn this thing around.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is too with the Giants, I think next year things are just going to start picking up, you know, like you were talking about before, like the continuity of all these guys playing together, and like it's just going to carry over into next year. And we're
going to play so up the schedule. Like this year, we played the AFC North, who might be the best division in football, and we played the NFC West. Next year, we're not playing those divisions. We play the South, the NFC South, which has the Saints, but you might not have Breeze. He might retire. The Falcons aren't that good. The Panthers are not that good. The Bucks, Brady's going to be 9,000 years old. And then in the AFC West, you'll have the Chargers, who don't really scare me. Obviously the Chiefs are great, which will be a fun matchup. But the Raiders, we just talked about them. They're not striking fear into my heart. The Broncos are horrible. So the Giants will have a softer schedule next year on top of the fact that they're going to have more continuity. I'm looking at least 9 or 10 wins next year. I think Giants they'll be good next year.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So, well, real quick, what are your predictions for these next 2 games with Washington, Pittsburgh, and Dallas, Baltimore? What are you thinking?
I'm gonna tell you what. Pittsburgh's got a great defense, fantastic defense, but I don't think they're as good as their record. You know, they're 11-0. I don't think they're a real 11-0 team.
Yeah. I'm
not picking Washington, and I don't want to pick Washington. Obviously, Washington's gonna keep it close. I really believe Washington's gonna have an opportunity to win the football game. I'm going to go Steelers by about 4 points. I'll go like 24-20, but okay. I do think Washington keeps it close, and I hope not. You know, this game kicks off in about an hour, and we need them to lose this game, but I think it's going to be closer than people think. As far as the Cowboys are playing the Ravens in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. I think Lamar Jackson's going to be back for that game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And they looked horrible last week with Robert Griffin III, but that defense still looked good. Like, they kept them in that game against Pittsburgh. Dallas, to me, is lost. I think Mike McCarthy's a horrible coach. You go back, watch my videos. You know, a lot of Giants fans wanted McCarthy. I was never on board with that. I thought he was carried by Aaron Rodgers. As a matter of fact, I thought he should have been locked up in prison for only getting 1 Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. So I was never a McCarthy guy. You could already tell there's been reports coming out that Dallas hates playing for him. I think Dallas will lose by at least 10 points. I think the Ravens will win that one fairly comfortably.
All right. Well, everyone, this unfortunately, this will come out after those games are played, but I'm 100% with you. I think that's definitely what I would pick too. I think the Steelers are a little shaky.
Yeah,
they are undefeated.
I tell you what, I'd like to play the Steelers now. I think we could beat them, or at least give them a really tough game. At least give them a really tough game.
No, I mean, I was so stoked for that first game, week 1, Monday Night Football. If COVID wasn't a thing, like, I was going to go, but
Yeah.
I was so stoked for that. Like I said, my brother's a Steelers fan, so we were going to go head to head with one another. But I think that I agree with you. We're doing good. I think we're going to continue doing good. Bring on the Cardinals next week, and we got this.
Let's rock and roll.
Playoff bound, baby. We're here. We're totally here. I'm like so excited. I don't remember what it feels like to win.
I just want to say thank you for having me on. I see you got a new YouTube channel. I always, ever since I've been on YouTube, I try to work with whoever. Keep doing what you're doing. I know you got a podcast. You had the podcast for a while, right?
Yeah. So my podcast goes on my YouTube channel, like a full podcast. But I started doing some other extra content videos and putting out some segments and stuff like that. But this whole episode will be out on YouTube on Wednesday.
Awesome. So yeah, definitely let me know when you drop it. I'll post it on Twitter. Hopefully some people come over here, check it out. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Yeah. And maybe we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, for sure. And I really, really appreciate you taking time out to come on, and go Giants.
Go Giants. Let's get the W. Let's clip some wings.
Let's clip some wings. All right, everybody, we're going to go back to our regular scheduled podcast programming. All right, guys, I hope that you enjoyed that interview with the Entertainah. I loved it. I loved talking about the Giants with him. I loved doing that interview with him. Oh my God, it was fantastic, and I really had a good time, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let's get into our, I'm trying to try something new here with these last couple weeks, putting in some predictions. Last week, I think I got the Bills right. I did not get the Chargers over the Patriots right. Oh my God, I'm so sorry if anybody was like listening to me for that. The Chargers put up 0 points, so not great. And the last was, I believe that I thought the Cardinals were going to win over the Rams. Also didn't happen. So not a great week for predictions for me last week. The previous week was good, but last week was a no-go for me. This week, my 3 games are going to be Colts Raiders, Steelers Bills, and Ravens Browns. Now, I've realized, like, I've picked the Bills game, like, every single week so far that I've been doing these predictions, which is interesting, but the Bills, I'm a closet Bills fan, I think. They are my AFC team. I like, wholeheartedly believe that. So, let's start off with this Colts Raiders game. Now, in this game, I'm going to pick the Raiders, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the Raiders, obviously, are in the same division as the Chargers. Why are you bringing up the Chargers, Sam? Well, I'll let you know, because Phillip Rivers is the Colts quarterback. He used to play for the Chargers. The fact that he knows this Raiders team might be beneficial to them, but last year, Phillip Rivers did lose both times to the Raiders as the Chargers quarterback. So, and I know that it's a different team and but I just genuinely believe that the Raiders coming off that weird win over the Jets last week, I think they're going to be like, oh my God, the Jets almost beat us. Like, we need to step up our game. And the Colts have been really good so far, but I really genuinely think that the Raiders will come out on top. They also have a stellar defense. It's just, that's just the way that they are. So I think that they'll be able to stop Phillip Rivers and this Colts offense, and I'm going to pick the Raiders. Number 2, the Steelers-Bills game. I'm going to get a lot of trouble for this because, as many of you know, Danny, my brother, Steelers fan, I'm going to pick the Bills. I don't know why I keep picking the Bills every week, but they spew out this really positive energy for me, and I really like them as a team, and I think that they're really good. I love Josh Allen. I think he's fantastic. So I'm going to pick the Bills here, but also I will explain my reasoning behind it. The Steelers have had their schedules changed constantly due to COVID, due to not their COVID, but COVID on other teams. And the fact that they are going to be playing their 3rd game in 12 days, this is a tired Steelers team. And I think that they showed what the effects have been in this Washington game that we saw on Monday. And I genuinely think that the Steelers might be on a bit of decline at this point. I'm not saying that they're bad now, but I just, after the Steelers game, the Bills were playing the 49ers, and the Bills did fantastic. I really, really enjoyed watching that Monday night game, the actual scheduled Monday night game. The Bills looked fantastic, and to be quite honest, the Steelers, despite their record being better than the Bills, this is still a really important game, and it's like this AFC showdown, and I really think that the Bills are going to be like, no, you are not going to be the team that comes out on top here. The Bills are also 5-1 at home. They're playing in Buffalo, so I don't know if they're allowing fans into the stands or not, but that's just what I'm thinking. Despite the fact that the Bills are coming off a short week, I really think that they're going to come out on top here. And I think that the Steelers will put up a fight. I think that they have some fire under them. They don't want to lose again. They want to clinch that first round bye over the Chiefs in the playoffs, assuming that they go to the playoffs. And because there's only one bye per conference now. So the Steelers have been going and going and going. They're tired. They need a break. They want that bye. So I know that fire is going to be there, but I just really think that the Bills are going to outplay them. Finally, the Ravens-Browns game. Oh my goodness. Ravens-Browns, AFC North team here. Monday Night Football. People, I'm going with the Browns. I'm going with the Browns because obviously the Ravens are coming from this weird COVID thing. Lamar's coming back, but Lamar had COVID, and who knows what kind of things that does to someone's body. They really have showed me, the Browns, they've really showed me that they can actually play and not just easy teams. They versed the Titans last week and dominated. They were showing, and I'm going to mention something I heard on a podcast today on the Dime Package. Shout out the Dime Package from Barstool Sports. The fact that the Cleveland Browns have been playing in really bad weather and their pass game has kind of been off. Beautiful sunshine weather in Tennessee the other day. The Browns passing game was stellar. And it just shows that they have a great passing game. But Baker Mayfield he's always been good. It's just his coaching, I think, has been off. Their run game is fantastic. I think that they're going to completely go off on the Ravens, especially because they want to make it in. I'm assuming that the Steelers are going to win the division and the Browns will get that wild card spot. And the Browns going to the playoffs, I don't know how far they're going to make it, but that'd be a really big accomplishment, and they are on a roll and they want to get to the playoffs. Despite the fact that the Ravens beat their butts 38-6 in the first week, I think that this is a different Cleveland team. I think that this is a different Baltimore team. And I think it's going to be a very, very different storyline coming into this game, especially that it's a primetime game. It's going to be fantastic. So those are my three predictions. I have Raiders over Colts, Bills over Steelers, and Browns over Ravens. And those are our picks for this week. Now, let's get into our segments for today's show. This first segment, which is my favorite segment on the show, our first segment and my favorite segment on the show, Tea Time. Yeah, our tea time for this week is something special. It's football related, however, it's not pro football. We're falling down to the bottom there to high school football. And not just high school football, but Texas high school football. And some of you guys may already know where I'm going with this story. So, for those that don't know, I'll explain to you what's going on down in Texas. The Texas high school football is, if you've ever watched Friday Night Lights, the show, and the movie, but I was a big fan of Friday Night Lights. And, Texas Forever, Tim Riggins, that's my man. Texas football is its own entity. Before I get into all this, Texas football is its own entity. And what happened here, all right, you know what? I'm burying the lead here, as I learned in my journalism school. Emmanuel Duron is a player on the Edinburgh high school football team. Basically, he had a dirty hit on a player. The referee just completely disqualified him, made him leave the game, and this guy came in and bodied this referee with full pads on. And granted, this is a defensive guy. This is not just some guy that he had taken his pads off or anything. He still had pads on. He's a big guy. He's a grown man, basically. Bodied this referee to the ground, and then basically That's assault. Cue the Adam Schefter tweet that just says assault. That is assault, and it was insane. Basically blindsided him. The referee fell to the ground. I couldn't find a updated status on the referee, but I do know that he was experiencing concussion-like symptoms and that he did walk off the field at his own power. Like, nobody had to carry him off or anything like that. But he probably got shaken up. And the thing was, too, that this kid, do I even call him a kid? He's 18, but no, he's a kid. I'm a kid. Let's be real. This guy, I don't know where this came from. I don't know what kind of, things were going through his mind that he was like, I need to attack this referee for disqualifying me from this game. But he attacked this referee. And because of that, this team, doesn't matter if they had never lost a game this year, their playoff spot was taken away from them. And again, I wanted to preamble that with the fact that high school football is like a big deal in Texas. To have that taken away from you, they are probably out of their minds, livid. This guy though, Emmanuel Duron, he's got other things to worry about. He got arrested. He got taken off the field by law enforcement. He had to post $10,000 bail cash in order to get out of jail. And technically he's 18. He's gonna, if there's some sort of trial, he's gonna be tried as an adult. It's absolutely just wild. Just blew my mind wild that this guy had, and I'm not gonna like show you guys the video. If you want to go look at the video, it's really easy. Just Google it. It's there. I just don't want to show it. I don't know how that ref is feeling. He's probably like, oh, everybody just keeps talking to me about this hit. Like, I don't want to put that on anybody. But this story is so crazy. And the fact that even my mother heard about it, like my mom was like, did you hear about the football player that hit the referee in high school? Like, it made nationwide news. So this is not okay. Whatever Emmanuel Duron is dealing with, or whatever that he was going through his mind when he did that, he's really got to figure himself out there. And I hope that the referee is okay. He looked like he was not young either. Like, he was an older guy. So this is just something else. And I was like, I have to do this for my tea time this week because the law enforcement officers got involved. I know that this is high school football, but it is spicy. So that is our tea time for this week. All right, everybody, let's get into our other segments, which usually I would do Let's Talk About It, but I don't have a Let's Talk About It for this week. But good news is that we have a Respect the Red Zone for this week. So I wanted to do Respect the Red Zone because this celebration, also, if you don't know what Respect the Red Zone is when I give, an award out for best celebration of the week. I don't do it every week anymore because people were really disappointing me with their things. So it comes up every once in a while, and this week, week 13 in the NFL, we have another Respect the Red Zone. And the Respect the Red Zone award, I suppose, trophy, first place, blue ribbon, goes to the Buffalo Bills and Cole Beasley and his offensive lineman, John Feliciano. Oh my goodness, this was adorable. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will explain it to you, my friends. Cole Beasley, first of all, before we get into the actual celebration, Cole Beasley has 33 career touchdowns. It is the most of any player under the height of 5'8". Cole Beasley is our wonderful short king of the NFL. Now the celebration, he scores this touchdown, and like I said, Cole Beasley's a small guy, 5'8", very small guy. Very, very talented though. Don't get me wrong. I love the small guys. But this offensive lineman, John Feliciano, picks Cole Beasley up, and not just like, how they pick them up from like, their waist and put them up in the air, which is also adorable. But this guy full on picks up Cole Beasley like a baby, holding him like in his arms, like he was cradling him, and started rocking him back and forth and then placed him down on the ground to put him down for a nap. Let me tell you, that sent me over the edge. I absolutely adored this celebration. It was so cute, so fun. Kind of, is like, oh, Cole Beasley's a small guy, but look at him. He's got 33 career touchdowns, most in the NFL by any player under 5'8". That's insane. That's such a good stat. I love that stat so much. So, Cole Beasley, John Feliciano, you guys win Respect the Redzone for this week. And finally, we have our tweet of the week. Tweet of the week this week is almost like a second tea time, if you will. Usually I try to pick funny tweets, I like to do the funny tweets. But this week I saw this one and I was like, oh my God, the shade. So this week, let me pull it up. Hold on. So it's from Matt Forte, who, if many of you guys know, used to play for the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears, not a game that we talked about this week, but they lost to the Detroit Lions, who have just fired their head coach. A lot of times, the first game back with an interim head coach, these teams have won. I think every team that has fired their head coach this year has won. So the Chicago Bears definitely struggled in this game against the Detroit Lions. Was not good. Not a good look. I feel real bad for my friend Andy Hopper out there, host of the Brew Party. Dude, I'm so sorry. But our tweet of the week this week is, in fact, from Matt Forte, and this is what he said. I've played on some awful teams, but man, y'all deserve better. With a peace sign. Oh my God. The shade, Matt Forte. He just came out there and just was like, hey, Bears, you guys suck. You need to just clean house and just start from scratch. Just start it all over again. Don't even deal with, anybody else. So that's our tweet of the week this week, just because of how just absolutely petty it is. And I absolutely love it. I live for stuff like this. So, and to be quite honest though, he's not wrong. The Bears losing to the Detroit Lions, that was a game that you should have won. And the Detroit Lions, they have nothing to lose at this point. They're not winning their division. They're not making the wild card. And they're like, you know what? Screw it. We just lost our head coach. We're going to go for it. So you guys messed up and you guys have to deal with your situation. I don't know if Matt Nagy's going. I don't know if their GM is going. I don't know what their quarterback situation is like. It's a mess in Chicago, I think. It's not a good look. Finally, we have our feel-good story of the week to wrap this all up. And this is almost like a bittersweet feel-good story. It's got a sad beginning and a happy ending. So basically, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard, Rigoberto Sanchez is the punter for the Indianapolis Colts. He has recently discovered that he had a cancerous tumor. And obviously, nobody wants to be told that they have a cancerous tumor. But the happy part of this entire story is the fact that Sanchez had surgery. It went well. Things look like they're looking up for him. And to be honest, that's what we want to hear. And he's been tweeting out, kind of letting everybody know his status on everything. There was a video or a picture of him watching the Colts game, supporting his team, doing his thing. And Rigoberto, I really hope that you're doing well. I hope that, this is the one surgery, it's the one and done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. But people, just so you know, go get checked for stuff. Don't be afraid of the doctor. They're not going to hurt you. Also, I know people my age, you guys don't like calling the doctor to make an appointment. Guys, just pick up the phone. It'll take 30 seconds. I know. I struggle making appointments. I have to go to the doctor. But everybody in the millennial and beginning of the zillennial, Gen Z millennial mesh, just call up the doctor and make an appointment. It's not hard. I know though, it sucks. I hate talking to people on the phone. But anyway, that's our feel-good story of the week, is that he no longer has, his surgery went well and he no longer has this cancerous tumor. So that is our episode for this week, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed the episode and our interview with Chris. It was super fun. All right, everybody, don't forget to subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you get your podcast from. Please subscribe and leave a review. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Girl Who Talks Sports. Give a thumbs up on a video. Turn on notifications to make sure that you get notified every time I put out a new video, because I've been putting out videos left and right, guys. You got to make sure that you don't miss those. And finally, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, TGWTS Podcast. Yeah, that's our show for this week, guys. Please, things are getting crazy and hectic in the world of COVID. Please, 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 please be safe. Please wear your mask. Please social distance, wash your hands, all that good stuff. I hope that you have a fun, fantastic sports-filled day, and I will see you guys all next week for NFL Week 14. Bye!